So just in terms of who's going to be in front of you in the next 60 minutes, my name's Alex Davis. I work within the business development team. I'm an Intuit looking after our larger firms. So having hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations every year with accountancy firms about specifically how they go about improving their business around the retention and recruitment of clients. So we'll bring some of that insight into the presentation as we walk through. And James Ashford is also going to be on the stage at the moment. Now, some of you will know James. If you've ever spent longer than 1 minute looking at LinkedIn in the last year, then probably James has appeared on your feed somewhere. He likes to be fairly active and prevalent on LinkedIn, and certainly the impact he's had within the industry. I haven't seen it in the time that I've worked with accountants for the last few years, the level of impact that James has had. So James is a bit of a freak as well, in the sense that he's come into accountancy from a marketing and a sales background. So he hasn't come from accountancy into marketing sales. He's actually come in the other direction, and he's a director at my accountancy place. So he brings a huge amount of insight and a completely different and fresh pair of eyes in terms of what he does. He's also the founder of Go Proposal. I know there's a number of Go Proposal users in the room as well, and he's also a best-selling author, and we've got a copy of his book with us today that James will kind of take you through. So really excited, really pleased to have James with us today. I'm under no illusions that James is the main event and I'm literally the warm-up act, so I will get off the stage and bring James on in a moment as we walk through. But again, really pleased that you're with us today. So in terms of what we're going through today, we're talking about the challenge ahead. Now these are just literally the kind of the headwinds that I see on the horizon, not just for accountants but also within the business market. So we'll have a look at some of those challenges, and then we'll give you guys a reality check. We'll talk about where you are right now compared to some of those challenges. And James is going to use an example of the firm that he's a director of and take you through a case study and just give you a feeling and a sense of really some of the things that you should be considering as a firm. We'll then look at some of the opportunities that we or I think that you should be thinking about. And again, James will be taking you through that. And then this fundamental part around taking action, because we know as soon as you leave this session, you might have a few things that you want to go and try, but you check your voicemail, you check your email, you get back into business as usual, and actually nothing changes, nothing happens at all. So we'll keep challenging you as we go through this session to start making commitments as we go through. And I just wanted to touch on that concept of mindset in terms of making sure that you get the most from this session. So let's talk about that challenge ahead. Let's look at some of the facts that I'm seeing, that we're seeing within the market, that makes me think that good is no longer good enough. Yeah, the industry is changing very quickly. The business world is changing very quickly. And this is something that we hear all the time, right? How tired are we as accountants about automation is coming, accountancy is dead, compliance is over, it's a commodity, move to advisory. We get that, we understand that. Deloitte and Oxford University did a piece of research a little while ago. Accountants and bookkeepers are at threat in terms of the software and the automation. But the really interesting thing for me is the first profession, the most at threat profession, is telemarketing. Yes, sales. And this is a profession where people buy from people. It's a people business, absolutely, but telemarketing is the most at threat in terms of profession. And we're moving from an industry or a situation around information asymmetry as it used to be. So a salesperson would normally be in a very powerful situation. You wanted to buy something, you'd go and see a salesperson, just ask a car salesperson whether this is true or not, and then they would come to you, you would give them lots of advice, and they would go away as advised customer. Now that's completely shifting. We have information symmetry. Yeah, so someone comes to the car salesperson per se, and they have more information than the car salesperson. They come saying, "This is the car I want to buy. Will you give me a price?" A complete shift. Yeah, so knowledge is no longer power. Yeah, Google took care of that in terms of making sure that just simply sharing information and sharing factual information is no longer good enough. Good is no longer good enough. And we're not just seeing that in terms of the knowledge economy and knowledge sharing. Advisory is also becoming automated. We've got an example here, a chatbot for an H&M. It goes through a series of questions. That will look good with that. I'd recommend you wear that with that. Now, tip of the iceberg, and you as accountants might be sitting there going, geez, that's H&M. That's never going to impact us. Just go back 5 years and see what's true now. yeah, and think about what's going on in the future. So when we talk about interacting with clients and sharing information, these are all the things that are on the horizon. Credibility is changing. 92% of us look at online reviews. 40% of us use online reviews as a key buying criteria. Yeah, again, go back 5 years ago and think, would you be taking advice from complete strangers about your purchasing decisions? Yeah, credibility is changing. The newer generation are far more likely to switch, not just their energy providers and utility providers, but also accountants. So that loyalty and credibility is changing. The newer generation are far more likely to trust someone with a social media profile than they are around an office address. But yet still we go on about, as a profession, about having an office address, being in business for 150 years. A newer generation measures credibility very different. They're doing businesses with Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, businesses that really haven't existed for 10 years, let alone 150 years. How we show up online is becoming more and more important. Yes, 72% of people conduct online research before making a product or a service decision. So our digital footprint and our web footprint, not just the quality of our website, but also our social media profile and our social media presence is becoming more and more important. But yet I still see as a profession spending thousands, whatever it is, on reception areas and nice buildings and nice signage and all of those kind of things, but yet only spending a few £100 on a website. That seems to be very, very imbalanced to me. And then finally, before I hand over to James, yes, the world is getting smaller. Technology took care of that. The cloud took care of that, absolutely. But not only is it getting smaller, it's also getting noisier. Yeah, we're bombarded with more and more information and more things that are sent to confuse us. 90% of the data that surrounds us in the world has been created in the last 3 years. Just think about that for a moment, how noisy the world is becoming. So the reason that noise is happening is because it's never been more easy to share information in terms of what we're doing. So before James comes on, just to set some context, absolutely everything is changing 100 miles an hour and the world is going through. But the point of this presentation is to talk about some core aspects, some core foundations that whatever happens within the world, whatever technology brings across, because we can't predict the future, but yet we can prepare for the future. And some of the stuff that James is going to be talking about is really setting us up for success within that area. Some core principles within marketing that make sure that you will be a success. So with that, I'll hand over to James and he'll take us through the rest of the presentation.
Cheers, thanks Alex.
No worries. Cheers, thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is James Ashford. I'm the founder of Go Proposal. I'm also the director at my accountancy place in Manchester. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is some of the marketing principles that we've implemented at my accountancy place, these fundamental core principles that the rest of our marketing has been built on. And what a lot of people will do is they'll kind of sell you SEO services or Facebook ads or whatever the latest marketing technique is. But if you don't have those underpinned by fundamental core marketing principles of how you develop relationships with clients, then everything that you build on top is not going to be as successful as it could be. But very often people don't tell you these things because it can't be monetized. I can't just like sell you something off the back of this. So all I'm just doing is revealing what we actually use in our firm. But I'm going to be giving you kind of the map to take you from where you are to where you perhaps want to be today. But what you always need to keep in mind is that the map needs to be aligned with your mindset as well. So if the map and the mindset are out of alignment, nothing I share with you today is actually going to make any difference in your firm. And it might be that your mindset is right and you know what you want to do with it and you're on it, but the other partner in the firm, you know, the one who didn't want to come today, not like you, braving the cold, turning up here, soldiers, coming and getting this information, that other person, maybe it's their mindset that needs to be adjusted as well. But I always call this out up front because what happens is you can listen to me at 300 words a minute today, but you've got a voice in your head that's talking to you at 1,200 words a minute. So you might be sat there going, yeah, and there's a voice in your head going, no chance, no, we're not going to be doing that. I don't think so. And the voice in your head is trying to get you off the hook because the voice in the head doesn't actually want anything to change. The voice in your head is quite happy with how things are, so it's always looking for an excuse to keep things where they are, okay? And I just wanted you to challenge that voice today as I'm sharing these things with you. So the first thing it's going to say to you is as I share these things with you, yeah, we know this. We know that. We can switch off from this. We already know this. You've got to challenge the voice and say, yeah, just because we know it Are we actually doing anything with that information? And then the next thing is it'll say, yeah, we're already doing something with that. Brilliant. Could we be doing it better? So you've got to keep challenging it. And what I'd like you to do is just look for the gold today in the talk. There could be one thing in today's talk that is actually the piece that you're looking for that's going to take you to the next level. So you've always got to be looking for that. And one of the things I hear a lot in accounting firms is, well, that's outside my comfort zone. You want me to do a video? Oh, no, that's outside my comfort zone. You want me to double my prices? Well, that's outside my comfort zone. But when you actually start to talk to them, you realize they're not comfortable. So how is that outside your comfort zone? Because you're not comfortable now, because you're not making the money you want to make. You're not having the impact with your clients that you want to impact. What this actually is we're talking about is your familiar zone. You don't want to move out of what's familiar to you, but don't be under the illusion, don't use the excuse it's actually your comfort zone, because perhaps you're not as comfortable as you'd like to be right now. So I just like to call those things out up front as I'm taking you through today's talk. So I find this is so fundamental for me, and it should be fundamental for you guys as well, not only for your accountancy firm, for your businesses, but for how you can actually impact your clients as well. So there's only two ways. So a business's core function is to make money. There's only two things that you can do to make money in your accountancy firm. One is to get more clients, and two is to give more value to the clients that you've already got. The only two things you can do in your business to make more money is to get more clients and give more value to the clients that you've got. Everything else in your business is a cost. The only two things that you can do to get more clients is to get more leads or to convert more of those leads into clients. And the only two things you can do to give more value to the clients that you've got is to sell more to existing clients or sell more often. That's it. They're the only four things that you can ultimately do to impact how much revenue your accountancy firm is making. And all four of those are impacted and come under the umbrella of the marketing function of your business. And this is why marketing is so important. Notice I'm not saying accountancy firm, I'm saying business. In our accountancy firm, we're a business first. We're a business that happens to provide accountancy services, right? We don't see ourselves as an accountancy firm. There's a fundamental difference to that, and I'll talk to you about that later. I see people making notes, that's brilliant, and I see people photographing the screen, that's even better. Steal as much as you want from today's talk. If you want to take your phone out and photograph things, you go grab it. I stole it off other people, far cleverer than me, so don't be afraid of taking it. It's fine, it's all yours. So I just want to share a few strategies that help us with this. So the first one, as Alex touched upon, is that knowledge has no value. Google's put pay to that. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, the accounting industry, it was like a secret. I used to be a close-up magician, right? So close-up magicians, you don't tell anyone. You have to be part of a magic society. You have these special magical words that no one knows, and you don't tell anyone your secrets, right? Okay, and that's how you make your money. It's similar to what accountants have been doing. If we don't tell anyone how we do what we do, and we use these magical words that no one knows what they mean, we'll all be fine. The problem is that cloud accounting came along, kind of the equivalent of the masked magician, and says, ta-da, this is how it's done. So now you've got to figure ways to add more value and bring more value to the party, right? So all of the value in terms of your knowledge of how this is actually done has gone. And so don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to give it all away, because the way that you make money now is in the implementation of that, or in the taking it to another level. And if you want an example of this, just look towards celebrity chefs. So celebrity chefs, Gordon Ramsay, got fantastically successful restaurants, but he still goes on TV, shows you how to cook his meals, produces recipe books, goes on YouTube, shows you how to do it. And the irony is, the more in-depth they go, the more they give away, the more you want to go to his restaurant and eat his food cooked his way. It's exactly the same with your accountancy firm. Don't be afraid to give it all away, telling people exactly what they should be doing and how they should be doing it, and go into as much depth as possible, because you know what? They will never do it themselves anyway. But if you can position yourselves as the expert and the authority, they will want you to actually do it for them. The next thing is to stop competing with other accountancy firms and start to excel. And this is important for a few reasons. The first being that if you're just looking towards the other accountancy firms and thinking, how can we be better than them? The likelihood is that they're pretty low level to start with. So if you end up being a bit better than them, you're not incredible, you're just not quite as bad as those guys, right? So it actually limits you in terms of what you can achieve. But the reality is as a client, from a business owner's point of view, is that your competition is not other accountants. Your competition is anyone I choose to compare you to. So I remember when I first encountered my accounting place, So I live in Yorkshire, where God's from, and I had to travel over the Pennines to Lancashire, to Manchester, to go and meet my accountancy place, right? So I went and met them for the first time, and I got out of my car, and I went on my app, and I paid for my parking as I walked to the train station, right? I got into the train station as I walked through the front door. By the time I'd got down the steps, I was on the trainline.com, and I booked my train ticket. I got to Manchester, I'd ordered an Uber that was sat there ready to get me there, and as I was sat in reception, there was a book on the side that I liked the look of. I went on my Amazon app and ordered it, knowing it was going to be there the following day. I then sat with my accountancy place. They showed me this incredible set of services that was 3 times more than I was currently paying with my previous accountancy firm. And I said, when do I get a proposal? He said, oh, we'll get that out to you. And it took 3 days for that to get to me, right? So I had all this amazing experience. Then it took them 3 days to get a proposal to me. Rightly or wrongly, I'm comparing them to the likes of Uber, to Amazon, to the trainline.com. Now, you might think this is unfair, but what's exciting for me is that never before in the history of the world have small businesses had the power of large businesses. You can now create these incredible experiences in your firms with this technology that's really low cost that can provide this amazing level of experiences for your clients. So what we should be focusing on is how great we can possibly be, and you'll see the importance of that as we go through this. And then the final thing I want to share with you, and this is really key. The way you start any relationship is the way you start every relationship. So the way we start a relationship with our client and the way we get them to the point where they want to do business with us is the same way that we would nurture a relationship with our life partner. Obviously, there are some subtle differences in that process, but fundamentally, there is a courtship period where we have to build trust with them, where we're nurturing them over a prolonged period of time to get them to the point where they want to do business with us, okay? And the way I see a lot of accountancy firms going is the equivalent of walking around bars and pubs in London today saying, will you marry me? Will you marry me? Will you marry me? And eventually, if you did that today, somebody would say yes to you, right? And I guarantee they are not the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, right? But that's how most accountancy firms go about their marketing, rather than investing in long-term strategies. And this was my only ever technique. This is how I met my wife. My only technique was to wear her down over a prolonged period of time and catch her at a low point. That was my only technique, which I'm fully punching above my weight. I appreciate that. And I knew her from school, and the quick story is I was living in London at the time. She was back in Doncaster, and she says, will you move back to Doncaster? We were just friends at this point. I said, I'll only move back if you marry me. She's the only person I'd ever marry. I said, I'm coming back. So I went back and we got married. So we agreed to get married before we started going out with each other. Anyway, that's the story. But the point is that we should be choosing the right type of clients that we want to work with and that we want to be developing these long-term relationships with, and we should be investing over a prolonged period of time. You're not going to take away from this talk today any quick fixes. There's no magic wands to this. But what I'm sharing with your works, and we're going to be seeing a video from Paul, who's my co-director at my accountancy place, as to how this works and the results that we're getting with this as well. But I don't want you to be under any illusion that this is easy, but it's right. What I'd like to do now is to introduce you to Paul Barnes, who's the founder of my accountancy place, my co-director there. And I went and met him a week or two ago, and he was having a meeting with one of our clients. I said, look, I just need to ask you a few questions because I'm going to meet these wonderful people at QuickBooks in a few weeks' time. And I know you can't make it along, but we'd like some questions and answers with you. So I've done a short video with him. And throughout this video, I'm going to be stopping and pausing at key points. Again, you've got 3 or 4 questions on your sheet that we're going to answer. But he's just going to describe what's happening in my accountancy place. You're going to put your answers down as to what you think his answers are going to be. And then he's going to reveal his answers to you just to paint the picture.
Hi, I'm Paul Barnes, the Managing Director of My Accountancy Place. We're an 18-strong firm based in Manchester. We specialise in helping digital creative agencies specifically. We've got about 135 clients and average fees of about £6,000 a year. So the business owners that we're looking to work with are not necessarily looking for a new accountant. They're looking for opportunity. It's not that their house is on fire, it's not that they are desperate to leave the last accountant because there's a trouble there in any way. It's just that they want to improve their business, but they weren't necessarily thinking like that before we started speaking to them and marketing to them. So marketing has become fundamental to our strategy, and we've had to work very hard to get our message to these business owners that there is a different way of working with your accountant, that your accountants can do more for you than you've ever thought of before, they can bring more value, but that's going to come at a higher price as well. And so to get them into that mindset, to get them thinking in this different way and ready to think about working with us, we've had to work very, very hard to our marketing. So we had a prospect that we met recently, and this was an agency that had been on our wish list for a while. We have a list of all the agencies that we want to work with, and we're dying to get in to have a meeting with this agency. And it was actually them who reached out to us in the end and asked for this meeting. And I was really shocked when I sat down, and the way that we opened the meeting was the managing director explaining to me that we, my accountancy place, have been on his radar for a while. And I asked him what he meant by that, and he explained that he'd actually been aware of us for...
The first question on your list is, how long did it take for this client to contact us after being first aware of us? Just have a guess. I'm not going to ask any of you to call your answers out. It's just for yourselves. Just write down your answers. From the moment they first became aware of us, how long did it then get to the point where they contacted us?
He'd actually been aware of us for about 18 months, he thought. And my next question was, how did you become aware of us? And when he started to explain, So
the next question is, how many touch points had there been with this client before they contacted us? And by touch points, I don't mean they've seen a tweet or they've liked something on Facebook. I mean actual meaningful engagements with us, whether they attended an event of ours or they've downloaded something off our website or something like that. So not just something flimsy, but a more solid touch point.
And when he started to explain, he had been referred by professional contacts, he had seen our posts on social media, he had read our blogs and our content, he'd used the tools on our website and downloaded reports, he'd been on our webinars, he'd been to our own events, he had spoken to clients that we work with and that had endorsed us. And when we added it all up across the multiple touch points and the multiple people in that business that had come across our brand and engaged with our brand, we believed that there were at least 20 touch points before we had actually got to the meeting, and we were now talking about possibly doing work together.
So the next question is when we then produced a proposal for this client, what was the value of the relationship to us over the next 10 years? So whenever we sign a client, we always think about working with them for the lifetime of their business, but we always kind of, factor in the fact that you can lose clients. And so what we always look at is with every relationship that we start, we take it into account that we're going to be with that client for 10 years. So that's how we see the value of our clients. When we look at, is this level of marketing worthwhile, the number we're looking at, the lifetime value of our client, is the annual fee of that client times by 10. That's how we base this on. So once we've then come to produce a proposal and sign this client, what is the value of that client to us over the next 10 years? Again, if you can just put an idea down for us.
So that was actually one of the biggest proposals we've ever produced. It was just short of £30,000 a year.
So when I said this isn't easy, I'm not trying to give you a quick fix here. I'm showing you how to invest in meaningful relationships that are valuable both ways. And that's the reason why I'm so passionate about marketing and selling, because it's all about getting to the client to a point where there's a value exchange in terms of the value they're going to pay for the value that they're going to receive from us. And so when you start to think, is it worth us running webinars and running networking events and things like this, we see these as scalable solutions. In my accountancy place, we run a digital roundtable event. We have a specific niche of digital creative agencies, and we run those events every month, and we'll get between 20 and 50 people to those events. We run webinars, which we run ourselves, and we'll get experts on as well to, again, give value to our clients and to our prospects. We've got reports and various things on our website that are really high impact, and so we're constantly giving value, but you have to invest in that relationship first. In my opinion, you've got no right to ask for anyone's time to even sit with you and give you an hour of their time if you've not first invested in that relationship, because what ultimately you're doing is you're making a withdrawal from the relationship before you've invested anything into it. Whether that's asking for their time or asking for some money for you to start working with them. And again, it's very easy for us to develop these resources and assets that we can kind of put on autopilot and share with clients and start to nurture them to get them to the point where they turn up ready to buy from us. Again, I'm not saying this is easy, I'm saying this is work, but this is where you want to get to if you want to be attracting the type of clients that you want to work with.
So despite all the marketing efforts that we do and we get prospects turning up ready to buy, and many of them actually sign up with us during the meeting, there are others where it's just not the right time for them for whatever reason. And it's that follow-up process after the meeting that's so important, and that can continue for a very long time. So we had one prospect that we met with, another one that we were really dying to start working with. We had known this business owner for a long time. We'd seen them at networking. We had clients that knew them and spoke to them about us. We had been following each other on social media. We'd worked really hard to get them in the room and had a really positive meeting. Beyond that meeting, it still required another.
So how long did it take for them to sign up? So they've been into a meeting, they want to work with us, they like us, we produced a proposal during the meeting, we've given it to them. What we also then do is, we produce a proposal during the meeting, and then as soon as they've left, if they've not signed up during the meeting, we will then produce a video of that proposal, talking them through the value and why we agreed to put those things in there, and we send that video to them within an hour of that proposal meeting, because we know that they're going to then be speaking to other people in their firm or the family or friends or whatever about the proposal that they have, and so we want to kind of reinforce that and back it up with as much information and support as we can. So this is a client who's had the proposal, they've had the follow-up video. How long did it then take them to sign up once they'd had that proposal?
Beyond that meeting, it still required another 12 months of following up before we were actually back in the room and they were ready to sign and for us to start working together.
And this is so important. The follow-up is where you can lose it. And when I first started working with Paul, what I explained to him is if we don't follow up, we're not being fair, we're being selfish, because we know that we can give so much value to these clients. So it's our ethical obligation to dig in and to make sure that we can get them over the line. Most accountancy firms typically will try up to 4 points of contact, ringing them, sending them emails, and if they've not had a response to that, they'll stop, because what they wrongly think is that it means something that the client has not got back to you. You have no idea why that client has not got back to you. There could be a whole raft of reasons, all sorts of things going on in their business. What you've just got to do is stay in, dig in, and keep positive, right? And when I say follow up, and I've had this from like top car salespeople, where they ring you up and say, kind of, are you ready to buy the car yet? Are you ready to buy the car yet? That's terrible follow-up. That is not the follow-up you want. What I mean is, you continue to invest in that relationship. We invite them to events of ours afterwards. We read a book as an accountancy firm every month in our firm, and we share the value that we've learned from it. We may send the copy of that book to that client, and we're digging in, continually investing in them, sharing blog. We've just published this blog article. We're sharing this with you. We might even pass them a lead. You know, we're just continuing to invest in that process, and then it's, oh, by the way, would you like to sign up? We also have some automated processes as well that I'll be talking to you about shortly, where we're constantly sharing success stories from our existing, that we're working with our existing clients, and the value that they're getting from working with us as well.
So they've actually now become one of our biggest clients. They're paying us £18,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's £180,000. The time and energy that we put in to that 12 months worth of diligent following up has been an amazing investment. To think that that's £180,000 worth of fees, and if we'd given up during that 12 months, that's the size of the deal that we would have been missing out on.
This is really key, that we understand what the potential lifetime value is of the clients that you can be working with. I learned this when I was working with businesses in other industries, and there was a client I was working with, their annual revenue was £13 million, and they'd been following up with a client for 10 years. And I was like, this is serious, guys. And when they signed them up, they were a £5 million a year contract to them. They then double that contract into a £10 million contract over the space of the next 3 years, and then the revenue by that point with additional work was £24 million, and they sold it. And it was at that point that I understood the importance of lifetime value and finding the right type of clients that you want to be working with, and digging in and continuing to invest until you get them to become a client.
I think what I've learned in the time that I've been a business owner and I've been running my accountancy firm is that it can become very easy for you to think that the marketing's not working, that your message isn't right, that things that you're doing, that people are not responding to them. But often when you get prospects not signing up with you, it can be nothing to do with anything that you've said, anything that you do, your prices or what you represent. And it's really important to believe in yourself and have confidence that what you're doing is right, and don't just keep pressing that reset button and build upon what you've already done. There can be 1,000,001 reasons why that prospect hasn't signed up with you, and it could be nothing to do with you or your business or anything you said or done. It could just be something in their personal life or their business life that means that the time's just not right for them yet, or they don't perceive that the time is right. So it's important not to give up and to make sure that you continue to build upon and believe in all the marketing principles that deep down you know are right. And most importantly, to just keep giving value to your audience, because marketing's hard, you've got to work at it, and you've got to be diligent, and you've got to explore all the avenues and just continue to work hard.
Thank you, Paul. And the bit there, he says, you've got to believe in what you're doing. And one of the key things I did with Paul when I first started working with him, and then when I became a director of my accountancy place, is I just gave him permission to do all the things that he believed was right. And you, deep down, will know the things that you should be doing, but you get told by these experts that you should do it this way, or it has to be like this. But deep down, you know how you want to kind of promote your business and sell to your clients, because it's how you would want to be promoted to, and it's how you would want to be sold to as well. We're 100% confident when we sign a client that they can sit with us and say, right, could you tell me how you've marketed to us? Can you tell me how you've managed to get me here to be producing this proposal for us now? And with hand on our heart, we can say, absolutely, we'll show exactly how we got you here with how we've invested in this relationship. So for me, marketing should always be very transparent, and the way what we've set up here is just how we want to be sold to ourselves and how we would like to be marketed to. So I'm just going to share a few things with you now that you can actually take away. Again, by all means, screenshot this and take them. So the first thing is for you to create one piece of high-value content that you can share with prospects or with clients. And when we do this, what I said to Paul is, when I first got him to write this, is look, don't write this like you're trying to win a client. If you never could work with this prospect, if you could never work with this agency, how could you just help them? What would be the best thing that you could share with them? And he wrote this book called Stop Growing Your Agency, which is all about growing your profits first before you just start to grow headcount or number of clients in your agency. And so you've got to write this from a very genuine point of view of how can you genuinely help and serve your prospects. And just a few points about this is, number one, what's the most valuable thing that you could give away? Don't be afraid of giving it away. It will scare your competitors to death. Just give it all away. It must be consumable within 15 minutes, in the fact that they must be able to extract the value from this piece of content within 15 minutes. You don't have to drag it out. You don't have to write War and Peace. It can be a very quick thing that you're writing for them. Take no longer than 2 hours to create it. What I'm trying to do here is remove all your excuses for not doing this, okay? The other thing is it doesn't have to be perfect. It won't be. It's not a problem. One of the beautiful things about accountants is that they want everything to be perfect, and they're always looking for what's wrong, which is great when you're looking at a set of accounts. The problem is when you then take that same mindset and you apply it to producing a piece of content, it's not going to be perfect, and there will be things wrong with it, but that should not prevent you from getting it done and getting it out the door. All we're looking for is version 1. So get version 1 done first. Again, I'm going to remove excuse of cost for you. If you want to get this done and on your website, or someone to produce the front cover or something, there's some great resources at Fiverr.com or Upwork.com where if you don't have the funds or a marketing department, that you could actually get this done for very low cost and out the door. The next thing is to create a long-term nurturing strategy. So you've got to play the long game. You've got to be prepared to dig in longer than anybody else. If you do that, you will win. We have 2-year nurture campaigns in our accountancy firm that run on autopilot, where we're sharing email content and sharing value to our clients. I'm not saying you have to do that straight away. What I'm saying is it'd be great if you could start with just a few weeks of content to go out. One thing that I got Paul to do was to write 6 emails, and I gave him 1 hour to write them. We set a timer of 10 minutes per email, and he had to have the emails all written that were then going to go out as a series of 6 emails over a period of time to our clients. And the thing I got him to do was only to write them to one person. One of the problems is you start to write your content, and in your mind you're thinking about all the people you'd like to work with, or the hundreds or thousands of people on your mailing list. And what that will guarantee is that your content is so bland and so useless, it will not resonate with anybody. You've got to think just one person. So with Go Proposal, we sell Go Proposal to other accountancy firms, but it was originally designed for my accountancy place. All the content I produce, I only ever produce for Paul. Every video I've ever done is only recorded for Paul because he's the type of person I want to be working with. So you should only be producing your content for one person. And the best way to do it, we talk about marketing principles, timeless marketing principles. There is one marketing principle that will outlive Facebook, and it will still be here when Google has gone, if we could ever imagine that, and it's telling stories. Storytelling is the fundamental, ultimate form of marketing of all time. And all of you have so many stories that are happening in your accountancy firm on a daily basis. Little stories, big stories. And all we've got to do in the content that we produce is share those stories. And then all you need in the email is a PS. If you'd like to have a chat with us about working with us, hit this button here. That's all it needs to be. Just share those stories. You can automate these processes with lots of technology that's already out there. And what I do is when you sign up for that ebook on our website, the way that the emails will then go out, this is just a little technical thing, but just to kind of challenge you on how many emails you can send, is on day 2, day 3, day 5, day 8, day 13, and day 21, and then every 2 weeks or a month after that. But the reason why we have quite a quick succession straight away is because that's when people are most likely to want to sign up with you and want to do business with you. And that is the Fibonacci sequence there, if anyone spotted that. Just thought I'd throw that in there for you. And the final thing is to make sure that we're wowing people. So marketing is selling, selling is marketing. So when they first interact with us, when someone comes to my accountancy place, they're all greeted with a sign with their name on it. You would not believe how important this is. They will take a photograph of this, but what it shows them is that we've thought about them before they arrive. Every member of our team will have been told that this client is turning up today and will all know their name. We have trained our team to all look up from their desks and say hello to that person. That did not come natural. We had to train our team in how to do that. So you've got to, if you start now knowing the lifetime value of your clients, it's the equivalent of selling a high-end sports car. You've got to provide that incredible experience to them. What I would urge you to do is to get at least one person, perhaps 3, but one person to go and experience your sales process now. To go and find your website, go on it, and try and get hold of you, and to report back to you on what that experience is like. You want to be reporting on the emails they get from you, the phone calls, your website when they arrive. And a great thing that you want to be learning is how you made them feel. Because the way that you make your clients feel will be remembered long after they've forgotten what you've done for them. And it's the experiences that you create that impact how you made them feel. I first did this with my accountancy place, and with every point of interaction, I just jumped on my phone and said, I've just had this email from you. This is how it made me feel. I've just waited 3 days for a proposal from you. This is how I am now feeling. You've just signed me up, and this is what's happened next. And I just kept reporting that back, and I shared that experience with them, and then we made those improvements along the way. People could be wanting to get, when people test this, they always test it Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You've got clients in pain on a Sunday night, right? They're dreading going back to their business the next day. They've just looked through their accounts over the weekend. They've just watched Dragon's Den on a Sunday night at 9 p.m. and they're like, I need a new accountant. What am I going to do? At that point, what is the experience of interacting with your firm? You can use automated calendar setting software that allows them to book a meeting with you. We use Moneypenny for our phone calls. So you can call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you will be answered by a real person who will take a message and who will send it to a member of our team for us to follow up with you. That is the experience we want to provide, and we want to wow them when they first arrive with us. Sat here now, you're all fired up, you've been to this great conference, you've come because you want to make a difference, you're all excited now, you've learned a couple of things today that you want to take away with you, but just taking notes is going to change nothing. We have to take action. If you want your firm to be different today, this week, than it was last week, and all we should be ever looking to do is make continual improvement. We're not looking for perfection, we're just looking for progress. And so I'm not going to ask you to do this now, but it's on your sheet, because I want to get into some questions quickly, is that when you leave here, I'll just spend a minute on what is the one thing we're actually going to do now. Based on what we've got from this, what is the one thing we're going to do? And then here's the kicker. Take one step towards it. So if you're going to hold a staff meeting about something that you've learned today, for example, send an email today, right now, while you're here, saying, block out Friday afternoon, we're having a meeting about our current website or whatever. Or if you want someone to go and review your current marketing processes, send them a text now saying, I've got a big favor to ask of you. can I give you a ring later on today and tell you what it is? Make a commitment, because what that does, it locks you in. It means you now can't back out of it. So it's proven that taking an action while you're in the mindset will actually start the momentum to actually make this happen. Otherwise, you'll leave here and there'll be no difference happening in your firm.